Hey, Pest Geeks. Well, today we're not. It's Blue Chair, but I don't have any cigars today. You might wondering, well, why don't you have cigars? Well, went to the Paul J. Bello conference and I took a whole box of cigars, and well, everybody smoked them. I shared them with everybody, so now I don't have any cigars. No, that's not it. I decided I'm not going to smoke a cigar because I've got I'm renewing my life insurance. I bought a policy several years ago. I'm renewing it, and I'm having just an iced Cuban coffee, kind of like in between a latte and an iced coffee, but just Cuban. And I decided I'm not going to have a cigar because they want me to get blood tests and get everything done. So I'm trying to be in the best shape I possibly can, and I don't want anything to go wrong or any nicotine to show up in my bloodstream. I only smoke maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks sometimes, and well, I just want to be, I want that premium to be as low as possible. So I'm sacrificing myself for my family and not having a cigar, although I really wanted to. I went out last night, went to one of my favorite places to go to. I normally go there about every 2 to 3 months. I've been there in the last 1 month because they reopened again and I missed it. It's Blue Martini in Miami. The reason I like going there is because the crowd is pretty mature. They're usually in their late 30s, early 40s, and 50s and 60s. So just a nice place. But they used to have a great band, a cover band, and the band hasn't been back. So the music hasn't been great. But I like going there to get away and just listen to music. I really like going there, listening to the music, having a drink, have the atmosphere of people talking. And it's just my luck that I picked a guy in the bar who is just there, and he's had way too many drinks, sat next to me, and he just wanted to pick up any woman that he could find. And I just wanted to sit there, listen to the music, enjoy myself. And I didn't have a cigar, which I normally do. I can smoke a cigar there. So that's why I go. So it's kind of a little getaway because I'm always stuck at home. I'm with the kids in the afternoon. Um, I just I need a place to just go away for a couple hours. When I come to my mom's, I'll be out here listening to music. I like listening to music and smoking a cigar and having a drink once in a while, and I really enjoyed going to that place. But the band isn't there, and the music hasn't been great. And then it gets really busy around 11 o'clock, and then it's past my bedtime, so I have to head home. And so yeah, I was there till about 11, and I had a I go in early. I went in like around, I don't know, 6 something. Yesterday was my relaxed day. I went to brunch, and then I cleaned my house, which I really need to get a maid to clean that house. I'm just tired of doing that on the weekends. And then I went to brunch, went to work out, did my yoga, worked out, then went to brunch, and then cleaned. And then around 6 o'clock, I said, you know what, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go to the Blue Martini and hang out. So I did, and that's it. That was my night. And I got home around 11:30, went to bed, and didn't get up till 7 something this morning. So I'm sleeping some really good hours. And it's just been a pretty good week. Calls are slow. Getting a lot of termite calls. The only problem is that's one of the reasons I want to get into termites. I'm giving away somewhere. I've been giving away in the last year. I will normally about $5,000-6,000 a week in termite work, and I've never gotten termites because I had so much. I had my GHP, my lawn, and now I'm doing nothing. And I said maybe I'm giving away $200,000-300,000 a year worth of termite work. Then I'm referring. I'm getting a commission for it, but I'm still, I could be, instead of making 10%, I could be making the 90%. Like everybody thinks. And the only problem I have is that I do not have a termite certificate yet. I went to PMU, took all the courses. I know what it is that I have to do, but I need a certified operator. So I have to do two things. I either have to hire a certified operator that has the certificate so I can do the work and pay him to, do it, evaluate it, sell it, or get a certified operator that has a certificate that will sign a training ID for me here in Florida, in Miami. And then I can go out and do my 45 jobs, certify, he can certify that I did it for him, but it has to be under his contract, his insurance, his license. And basically, I would be doing free labor for him in exchange for me to be able to get my credentials. The other offer is, hey, we'll just sign off on the deal for you and that you did it. And I just, one of the problems that I have that slows me down in business, it really does slow me down, is the whole issue of ethics. Once I know something is wrong, my conscience will not allow me to do it. If I do, I just won't be able to rest. And some people will say, well, that's stupid. I've got people willing to sign up, two guys. They trust me. They know I'm not going to do them wrong. And they were willing to sign for me that and give me the addresses. And so I don't have to go through that whole trouble. These are good people that trust me, that know that I won't do them wrong. And yet I know in my heart it's wrong, even though they don't see anything wrong with it. They're willing to put their certificates on the line for me and help me. But here's what I really want. Here's what I'm looking for. That I actually go and do the work and earn those 45 jobs. It's called work ethic. It's called business ethics. These are competitors of mine that are willing to sign off for me, but I actually want to go do the work. But they don't get that much work. They do tenting and stuff. They're not going to get it. I mean, I will go in and check termite stations. I will drill. I will treat. I will trench. I will do the actual work for you for free. And I want it, earn it legitimately. So this is probably going to either cost me $30,000 to hire a certified operator to get into termite, but then I'm going to expect him to do the work and him to do the sales and him to do, evaluate whether we want to take this on or not, or find somebody and then in the next maybe month or two, gather my work and then be able to qualify to take the state exam for lawn and ornamental. I already know what's on the exam. I know what to do. Lawn and ornamental is more difficult than the termite exam here in Florida. But I need the 45 jobs. So if you're here in Miami, you've got a certified operator, you're willing to take me on, I will do this for anybody that ever wanted me to and help them get their certificate. I would. Then I'm looking forward to you calling me, letting me know, hey, come in and my exchange is going to be for your help. You're going to get free labor. You're going to get the work done. I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it the way you tell me to do it. I'm going to do it by the book. And that's it. And that's what I'm looking for. So these issues in ethics in business slow me down. They slow me down because I could have done this a year ago. I could have done it any other way, but I choose not to. And I choose to take the high road on these things because, man, later nobody can point the finger at you. And you're saying, but who's going to know? Well, God's going to know. And that to me, the Bible tells us, do not grieve the Holy Spirit. And when we do sin and we do things knowingly and it grieves the Holy Spirit, I don't want the joy and the blessing in my life to leave. Those are the things that I've experienced in the past as a believer where I have grieved the Holy Spirit. And it's not good. It's not good for me. It's not good for my soul. It's not good for my spirit. So I don't enjoy doing it. So those are the challenges, man, the moral issues. To me, it's more of a moral issue and a spiritual issue when I reverse engineer it. When you're not right with your spirit, it manifests in your soul, and then eventually it manifests itself in your body and in your being. And I'm a three-part being. I'm a body, spirit, and soul. And I'm trying to take care of all three, especially the body, because it's decaying quickly, guys. I'm losing my hair. I've lost my hair. Got all the grays. So I am thinking about the years I have left, maybe 20, 25 years that I've got left, maybe 35 years. I want to live those 35 years to the fullest in all three areas of my life. And these are the things that I'm contemplating on as I'm getting older. Maybe I'm getting wiser, maybe I'm just getting tired, maybe both. And I just want to enjoy my life to the fullest. I want to enjoy what I do. I want to enjoy what I do every day. I do. I want to enjoy doing this. Is one of the things I enjoy most is talking to people and dealing with people. And I was having that conversation this morning with a brother. I'm having a conversation about last week about your competition and dealing with your competition. I paid the price for that. Back in 2009, when I got into business, the landscape the landscape industry was hurting, so they decided they're going to do free pest control, and I lost a bunch of clients. Within 6 months after being in business, lost like $10,000 worth of business. And my retaliation was, instead of being, bad mouthing my competition and telling everybody and throwing everybody under the bus, I went ahead and I said, well, if they're going to do pest control, I'll do landscaping. I got into the landscape business. And my mom comes out to check on me, make sure I'm still here. I've never been all here. And I did the right thing, thinking I'm doing the right thing, competing against them, got into an arena that I should have never jumped into. And it cost me 4 years of learning that I couldn't make money in landscaping the way I could make money in pest control. And if I would have put all that energy and just continued to build my pest control business, whether I lost the money or not, I would have been way more ahead than I am now. So I did the wrong thing for the wrong reason, thinking it was the right thing to do, when in fact it was a bad business decision. It was based on ego. Was it morally wrong? No. Wasn't morally wrong. Was it ethically wrong? No. I did it right. I had a license. I could do landscaping. But it cost me 4 years, where later I was miserable and saying, why the hell did I even get into this? And we make decisions like that all the time in business. Our egos get in the way. We want to get even. We want to take it back, when we could just refocus and focus our attention on the positive versus things that rob us of energy. So I had a landscaper, and I had all this, and I had an extra vehicle, and I had a whole bunch of things that. ¿Me ven? Claro, porque algo está entrando. No. Sí, alguien compartió contigo un mensaje, pues, que te mandó un mensaje por. Pero es que nadie a mí me tiene que mandar mensajes, a mí nadie sabe. Él sabe que yo cojo los mensajes. Sí, mami. Todo el mundo piensa que tú lo coges. Y te están mandando Daisy. Cervantes allá en. Daisy. Sí. Daisy, mi sobrina. Sí, te estaba mandando un mensaje por Messenger, yo creo. Entonces. Pues mira. She still doesn't know how to use her phone. It's not going to get any better either. Así empezó ayer. Sí, mami, porque todos los mensajes te están entrando. Pero que así empezó ayer y después no. ¿Quién es Lucía Aureli? Lucía. Ajá. Aureli. Ajá, ¿es familiar tuyo? Sí, es una familia mía. Mira, Yoli te estaba marcando, mi hermano te estaba marcando, yo te marqué, entonces todo eso, ya te lo borré ya, no te va a volver a marcar. Bueno, deja ver, ojalá y no. All right. So, we're dealing with all these ethical, moral, emotional, and business issues, and I'm sitting here thinking all this through, and she wants to have a conversation with me now. She's actually having a conversation with herself. She talks to herself just like I do, which I wonder where I get it. My father used to talk to himself, and it drives my mother nuts. It drives my children nuts. It drives everyone nuts that I sit there and I talk to myself. when apparently there's nobody in the room and I'm having a conference meeting with 5 people. Um, so so I'm having all these thoughts of all these issues, and I'm looking at, conversations people are having with me in finances and the issue of ethics and morals. And listen, I don't judge. I've never been one of those people to judge. I always sit there and I say, listen, here's what Scripture says, and here is the problem, and I'm reversing engineering everything. But I don't sit in judgment of what other people do, because I realize we're all fallen. We've all fallen by the grace of God. We're where we're at because of the grace of God. We're all fallen, and we got to deal with all this. And a lot of the time, it's, you're broke and you're getting paid cash and you're seeing your money outflow, and you're like, I'm just not going to declare it. I'm going to take all the cash, put it in my pocket, and not declare it. And it happens all the time in business. Everybody I've seen in business does it. It still doesn't make it right, and it doesn't when you get an audit and they're going to audit you and you're leaving a paper trail. If you get audited, you're going to have a lot of fines, a lot of interest, and a lot of things to pay back. And is that going to be detrimental to your business? I really care more about your well-being and health than I care about the fact that what you're doing is wrong, because in the long term, it could harm you. So I'm having these discussions. I've had these issues. I've had the same temptations. Hey, I don't have to declare this. I can just put this in my pocket, put it under a mattress somewhere. It's cash, and not worry about it. The problem is when people are paying you through Zelle, or they're paying you through a check, or they're paying through one of these apps. It's all traceable. And again, I had a confrontation when I went to PMU, not with the teachers, but with myself, about the realities of the SDS. And I wanted to talk to you about this. And the whole issue with the SDS is, as solo operators, we think the SDS doesn't apply to us because most people think the SDS, which is known as the MSDS, formerly known as the MSDS, the artist formerly known as MSDS, is now known as SDS. Safety data sheet, where it used to be called the material safety data sheet. And you think that it's just for if you have a spill, for first responders to know what to do. Actually, it's not. The SDS is there, and it's mostly by OSHA and DOT and FIFRA, and it's a 3-part. And the reason it's created is to basically harmonize globally for a lot of purposes, mainly trading chemicals, but getting them imported and getting people trained on chemicals, and help with export and import, and help commerce. There's a whole lot behind that SDS than just what we think. It's just worker safety. But it is worker safety. And the problem is it's enforceable. It's enforceable when you have employees. The problem is if you're a solo operator, you feel the only thing that applies to you is the label, that the SDS does not apply to you. And I'm looking at this, and I've got employees, and my job is to protect my people. And once you have employees, everything changes. It's no longer about you. It's no longer what you would do. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you would do. It's what is the government going to say, and what is going to happen if you get it wrong? What's going to happen when it's becoming more enforceable now, where FIFRA is enforcing it more, OSHA is enforcing it more? It's becoming a problem when you have an employee accidentally injures himself or gets sick. Are you going to have, this is uncomfortable with, let me move my chair over here for trying to grab my coffee. So I had a question that I posed on a product we love to use. Now, this is not a reflection of the product. This is a product I absolutely love. We use a ton of it. But when you read the SDS, and the SDS has to deal mostly with the LD50, which has to do with the concentrated product and the transporting and handling of the product, not the application. The application of the product goes under the label of how to apply the product. So when it's diluted, very, very few products, when you dilute them between a 1 and a 6% solution, are going to have very little issues to the applicator. But in the handling it and the transporting of it, there could be huge issues. And the discussion that I've put up online, and I've put this online before, and there seems to be a huge confusion because nobody is paying attention to the SDS. We're only paying attention to the label because the label is the law. That is what we've been taught. The label is the law. But if you notice on all the labels, it says it is a violation of federal law to use this product inconsistent with its labeling. It doesn't say inconsistent with its label. It says labeling. When you look on the EPA website, it explains the difference between the label and the labeling. And according to FIFRA, the labeling includes the SDS. So when you are reading a label, you also have to read the SDS, and your people have to become familiar with the SDS and the label, because I'm going to give you an example. Look at the product, Essentia IC3. Here is a company, me, who used Essentia when it first came out, who buys a usually obscene amount of Essentia, who loves the product, who uses the product, who also uses Ecovia, and also uses other by JH Biotech. And we use literally a year, hundreds of thousands of finished product of IC3. So this is not a criticism of the product. This is a product I love. I love Zoecon for what they do and the products they put out. We use an enormous amount of their products. Gentrol. It has to do with the facts. And the label only has PPE for handlers, not for applicator. When you read the label, there is no PPE for applicators. The label allows for indoor fogging. And I want you to think about this for a minute, the challenge I'm posing here. The label is a FIFRA exempt product. It does not require FIFRA registration. Therefore, on the label, that sentence, it is a violation of federal law to use this product inconsistent with its labeling, is not on that label. Therefore, do you have to obey the label if the product is exempt? And if that label, that statement is not on the label, do you have to obey the label? And then when you read the fogging, the product has no PPE for using a respirator. When you read the SDS, it says the product should not be used in well-ventilated air. You should use it in well-ventilated areas and outside. The label tells you when you're going to fog that you've got to turn off all the ventilation systems, and the house is now closed. I want you to think about this for a minute. If the house is closed, is there ventilation? The answer is no. It's not well ventilated. The SDS says the applicator must apply it in outside or well ventilated areas. If they are not going to have ventilation, they need to wear a NIOSH respirator, and it tells you which NIOSH respirator to use. The label has no requirement for PPE at all. We have a problem. Do you see the conflict that we're having? This is not a criticism of the product, and this is not a criticism of the applicator. The fact is, You have to read both as an applicator, because the moment you have an employee applying this product, OSHA steps in. And now the labeling is the law, because the labeling now applies to 3 laws: DOT, FIFRA, and OSHA, all 3. And now you might not be in violation of FIFRA law, but you're in violation of OSHA law, which protects the employee and the technician. And if you don't transport it correctly, you're in violation of DOT. So the labeling is the laws, not the labeling is the law, or the label is the law in this case. And this, when I posed this, if I would have posed, how do I use Essentia IC3 and what application and what pest does it control, I would have gotten 100 hits on that. I would have had 100 people, 50 people say it sucks, that stuff isn't as good as bifenthrin, isn't as good as everything else, and then I would have had another 50 people defending it, and it would have been into a battle, and everybody would have had an opinion. Because I asked the question the way I asked it, I only got one response, and it's, you need to call the ag department and ask them. Actually, no. Well, I wouldn't use it like this, and I wouldn't use it like that. The fact is, I gave you the facts of what the label said, and I gave you the facts of what the SDS said. And the answer is, it's both. If you're going to apply it indoor, you have to obey the SDS if you're an employee. If you're a solo operator and you choose to poison yourself, what's the problem with that? Well, the problem is that it says that it can cause dizziness or fainting. And the label tells you, if the person is fainted, you need to take them out to fresh air. Here's what I want you to think about for a minute. If you're the applicator and you're in a home and you applied it without a respirator and you fogged it, and all of a sudden you start gasping for air and you pass out and you fall, and God forbid you don't hit your head on the way down, and now you're unconscious inside a home, injured, who is taking you out? Who is reading that first aid on the label, and who is taking you out? God forbid this is your employee that this happens to, and now you have a lawsuit on your hands. You have a workman's comp claim, and you have an OSHA investigation because you failed to understand that as a technician and you're a solo operator, you're not taking the law and understanding the labeling. Those are the issues that we're battling. These are the conversations I'm having, because the moment I made aware of something, I'm no longer ignorant of it. I have to respond. I'm in constructive receipt of information that I must do something with. And my conscience doesn't allow me to not know that. So when I went to PMU, and they started talking about what OSHA is doing, what is happening, when Alan Fugler stands there and talks about this. This is the stuff we're not getting, guys, when we go to CEU training, because all the manufacturers are telling us, and this is the beef I've had for decades now, where I've been very vocal about this, and manufacturers don't like it that I talk about this, is that we only get told how to apply the chemical, how to use it, how to do a crack and crevice, what insect to use it for, and how many of us have actually taken SDS training. Which leads me to my second point about why it is that I'm doing my training for free, because I don't want an excuse I can't afford to pay to give the SDS training. You don't have the time to sit there with a technician for an hour and explain. Imagine if you're like me that got 16 SDS labels that we have to train on across the board. This is why most people use only 1 or 2 products and just continue to use that product, why most people just use bifenthrin. Because when you have 16, 20, 30 products to teach on, that is a huge investment in time with your technicians. But guess what? It has to get done. We have to do it. It is part of our business. And when it's a race to the bottom on pricing, and none of these companies are teaching these people this, and you're the one that you feel you have to do this, but nobody's doing it until your employee has a problem, until you have a demand. Can you absorb a 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 lawsuit on an employee because you failed to do this, because it's a race to the bottom and there's no time, and you can't charge the rates that you need to charge to train your people right? And as a business owner, I am plagued with this. I'm challenged with this. I have the same issues you have. And what do we do? So now I've got no choice. Now I really have to crank down and say, yes, we're going to have to sit there for an hour once a week and do SDS training on each label. It's your responsibility to read it. It's your responsibility to sign off that you read it and that you understand it. And if there's a conflict of what needs to be done, I need to be called immediately because there's an issue, and decide what products we use inside and what. This is why I've never been a fan of applying 25V products indoors, even though I use an enormous amount of 25V products. I'm not a fan of applying them indoors. When you read the icons on an Essentia SDS, it's much stricter or potentially more toxic than applying bifenthrin, than applying Baracor. When you look at the potential risk for infertility and child death because of the application, it's on the SDS, and you tell a woman technician that this is safe because it's botanical, it's natural, and somebody's reading that SDS because they're available online. Anybody has access to the SDS, and you are going to fog an inside of a house with it, and the owner reads the SDS and she's pregnant. See, guys, we live in a different age. No longer, this is what I've been saying for the last 6 years, no longer do the manufacturers have access to information that only they have, that they can control. Now it's all online. Anybody can get a label. As a matter of fact, we have a full page where we have the label and the SDS, and we send that link to that page to every client and say, here's the products we use, here's the SDS, here's the label, this is how we do it, this is how we apply it, but ultimately it's up to you whether you want these products. And if you don't want them in your home, then you need to tell us, and we have to figure out a way to do it for you. But we can't spray water to solve your problem. We got to use, whether it's a synthetic chemical, whether it's a natural chemical, whatever it is, we have to use it. And it's how we use it that makes the difference. If I can solve the problem with imidacloprid, but with a gel bait that doesn't contact any surface that we put in a station, then that's different than us doing a crack and crevice. It's much less chemical in the home. The chemical still has to be. The reality is that the SDS has a label, and then the label says caution, or none at all, but yet the SDS says this product is flammable, and the label doesn't. And as a worker, they have a right to know what they're applying. So now you using Essentia, and one of your female workers says, I'm not going to apply this product because I'm trying to get pregnant, and it says right on the SDS, this is a problem. Now what do? Do you pre-educate people on this before you hire them? Because then once you hire them and you're using this product, and the person says, I'm not going to apply it, I'm not going to carry it, I don't want to be near it, now what? These are the issues that we have. And what the problem we have is we have so many groups or so many solo operators don't have to take this into consideration. But us that are growing businesses, We have to take it into consideration. You see where there's a big disconnect, where it's not being taught, it's not being shown that it's important. It's more than important once you get employees into the mix. And there's a difference between a solo operator chooses he's not going to wear a respirator if he fogs. I don't have that choice. I have to enforce the law with my technicians. They have to wear a respirator if they're going to apply that indoor. No ifs, ands, or buts. Because then there is a claim, then there's a problem, then there's a lawsuit, and then you're saying, well, I didn't know. Well, are you willfully ignorant or were you stupid? Because you got to ask yourself, if you're being told you got to read the SDS, and you're being told you got to read the label, and you got to read the supplemental material, and you choose not to, how do you prove that you told your employee that they had to do it? And the only way you can do it is by taking a course, giving them a test, having them sign it, and know that you can verify that they took that information. And they can't come back on you and say, we never knew anything about it. So you see, folks, this is why a lot of people choose not to grow business, because now you got to deal with all these laws, not just the label law. And the label is not the law according to the label. The labeling is the law according to the label, according to FIFRA, which they've clearly defined it and says, yes, the labeling, the STS, is part of the labeling, and according to the label, it is a violation of federal law to use this product inconsistent with its labeling, not inconsistent with its label. So I hope this helps, folks. This is Frank the Pest Geek wishing you a pestacular day.